All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon.
All right, let's get started. Everybody's ready. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to begin our Fulton County State Court Expedited Accusations calendar. This is a calendar for cases in which individuals have recently been arrested and charged with certain misdemeanor offenses. Soon after their arrest, the Fulton County Solicitor General's office has already accused the cases of the offenses brought against them, and the case has been bound over to the Fulton County State Court. Nevertheless, this will usually be the defendant's initial appearance before a state court judge, so we are able to address several matters, including bond, possible arraignment, and a possible plea offer if one has been made by the state at this juncture. I want to begin by advising everyone that this whole entire proceeding is being recorded as well as live streamed on YouTube. I want to also remind the defendants on this calendar that you have certain constitutional rights, the first being that you have right to representation, excuse me, and that you have a right to have counsel present with you today. Most of you should know who your attorneys are. Also, you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you state about the facts, the circumstances, and the occurrence of your case can and will be used against you. Govern yourselves accordingly and listen to your attorneys. Miss Bridgewater, what's our reset date for SAP?
July the 25th.
Okay, July 25th. All right, who do we have first, deputies?
Position 2, Ms. Andrews.
Okay, position 2. This is 23 CR 004361Y. Wylena Andrews, charged with 1 count of simple battery family violence, offense date July 11th, pretrial.
29 total. She got a sell of marijuana and 4 counts of theft by receiving in the history. 2018 theft, burglary, and fraud arrest. That's it.
All right, thank you. State?
Yes, good afternoon, Judge Missy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So this incident occurred yesterday at 2320 Burdett Ridge Road, and this is where Mr. Rodney Tate advised that his girlfriend, the defendant that he lives with, chased him out of the house and punched him and hit him with a door. Mr. Tate let us know, told officers rather, that they were arguing, and then the defendant got mad and started to punch him. And he told officers that his son witnessed the attack. However, officers did note that there were no injuries on Mr. Tate. The defendant, however, told officers that nothing was physical between them and that she did not hit Mr. Tate. Our office was able to speak to Mr. Tate today, and he let us know that he and the defendant are no longer in the relationship, nor do they live together. He also let us know that the incident happened at his residence and that the defendant just came over and she attacked him, and he confirmed everything listed in the warrant. He also let us know that he does not want any contact with the defendant, and he also wants her to stay away from his residence. So for all of these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond, a 1-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Mr. Rodney Tate, to stay away from his address at 2320 Burdett Ridge Road, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, thank you. PD Wills?
Thank you, Judge. My client is 43 years old. In speaking with her, she indicated that Mr. Tate was her fiance, and that they do live together, that he has a son. She also has a 13-year-old child who lives in the home with them. She is currently employed as a cashier at the Dollar General. She will qualify to be represented by the Public Defender's Office. She has an associate's degree. She contends and states that this was a verbal argument, that Mr. Tate began throwing things down the stairs, such as drawers, but that the argument never became physical in any way or at any point. Ms. Andrews stated that at one point she did fall into the door as Mr. Tate, I guess, was exiting the door. And that's what the officers saw when they came upon the scene. However, again, she denies making any physical contact. My client is not a petite woman. And so I think it should be taken into consideration that there were no marks or injuries, even though the allegations were that she punched him several times. My client also states that when the verbal argument began to escalate, she called her sister so that she would have a witness. And then once Mr. Tate began throwing things, she asked her sister to call law enforcement. So it was actually my client who called the police on that day. For all of those reasons, I would ask for a signature on bond. Again, my client is of very limited means. She has a 13-year-old. I believe this is new information that she is no longer with Mr. Tate. So now she's going to have to relocate both herself and her child on her Dollar General income. I would also request a one-time law enforcement escort back to Mr. Tate's home so that my client can get any property and belongings belonging to herself and her child.
Just quickly,
Okay.
Judge Mincy,
Uh-huh.
I would like to sound for Mr. Tate if he's on the Zoom call. I didn't sound for him earlier, but I don't believe he's present.
All right, Mr. Rodney Tate. Rodney Tate. All right. All right, I'm going to order the $3,000 surety bond. I'm going to order a stay away from 2320 Burdett Ridge Road. I'm going to order no further contact with the victim, Rodney Tate. I'll allow one-time law enforcement escort to return to the property to retrieve her items. And I believe you said that they don't have kids together, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Also, I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I think that should be it. Anything else, counsel?
Nothing from the defense.
All right, thank you. All right, that should conclude this case.
Position 9, Ms. Mills.
Okay. This is 23 CR 004367Y. Alexis Mills, charged with 1 count of battery, pretrial.
Second arrest, resident of North Carolina, last arrest 2017, carrying a handgun by a minor, possession of marijuana. That was dismissed.
All right, state.
Your Honor, it's Anna Allen for the state today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So this is a dual arrest. Both of the young women are on your calendar today. Mrs. Mills is the case I prepared. This is an incident from July the 11th, 2023. Police were called to 2115 Piedmont Road. That's the Optimus Lofts. There, police spoke to the victim in this case, also co-defendant Ms. Davis, who said that she needed medical attention, that she came home to find her roommate had thrown all of her things everywhere. She went and confronted her roommate, Mrs. Mills, and they argued about a man that they have in common and admitted that there was a physical fight. I believe Ms. Mills admitted that she had thrown her roommate's things all around. The victim reported that she had been struck in the eye by the defendant, Mrs. Mills, and she was in need of a medical attention. She was bleeding. She had a laceration that was visible under her right eye. It's noted in the police report that Mrs. Mills also had scratches to her neck and face. Both of the women were transported to Grady and released before being transported to the jail. So Ms. Mills in front of you now has been arrested for battery. She has little criminal history. And what pretrial stated earlier is correct. Possession of a handgun by a minor. It looks like it was dismissed, I believe. We would ask for no further contact and to stay away from the location. And I do not believe this young woman already has a bond, so we'd be asking for a $1,500 bond, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, PD Kim, good afternoon. You're muted.
Miss Ellen, would that be a signature on bond of $1,500?
Oh, I don't think you said ASG Allen, if that was surety or signature.
I'd leave that to your discretion, Your Honor.
Okay,
Honestly,
All
it
right.
looks like this young woman's the least culpable of the two and has the least criminal history.
okay. All right. PD
I
Kim.
would
I'll-
like to recommend for a signature on bond.
Okay,
I believe that the co-defendant, cross-defendant is also in the jail. My client does not have any objection for no further contact. However, she moved from North Carolina to pursue her singing career, music career here in Georgia about 7 months ago. And this is the apartment that she is residing right now. So we would like to request for having her to stay at home. My client completed up to 11th grade and she's trying to complete her GED while she's pursuing her music career. She's not going to be qualified for public defender services, and yet we would like to request for a signature on bond. $1,500 signature on bond sounds very reasonable. Thank you.
all right.
Judge, if I may, Brian Tevis, I represent the opposing party in this case, which we're not at yet. But for the court's awareness, my client's mother is the leaseholder of that apartment, and I expect her to be able to sign on. She said around 2:20, but she wants the court to know that she does not want this defendant to come back to the apartment because she's the leaseholder and there's significant damage to the possessions there. She doesn't want to be responsible for damage. So on behalf of our side of things, she would have no objection to her return to get her belongings, but she does not want her to return to that location.
So Attorney Tevis, does that mean, are you a conflict defender or you are private?
I'm
counsel?
retained.
Retained, okay. And I'm sorry, let me write your name, Brian, Tevis. Okay, so is the mom being the leaseholder saying she doesn't want either of the parties back there?
No,
Or
her
just-
daughter is, they're roommates. Of course, she's fine with her daughter living there. She does not want Ms. Mills to return there.
Okay,
But if you want to hear that, I'm not trying to get involved in her first appearance, but I expect my client's mother to sign on probably within the next 5 minutes or so. If you want to hold and hear from her, you can.
I think, Deputy, can we hear the defense on Ms. Davis, since it's going to be the same facts? The state may have a few things to say different. Were you going to bring her next, Deputy, by chance?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let's do that, and then I'll hold on my ruling with both, and the mother may shed some light for both cases for me. And did I see someone just sign on? What's the mom's name?
She would be Miss Stewart.
Stuart.
I don't see her yet. She
Oh,
said
I
she
think
would
I just
text me.
maybe saw movement on Ashley's iPhone, but I don't know who that is. That may be someone else. Let me hear on the second case for Miss Davis. That's position 4.
Yes, Your Honor. So the facts are the same as stated by ASG Allen. So the state's recommendation for bond would be a $1,500 surety bond, a 1-day anger awareness course, no further contact with co-defendant Alexis Mills, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
And I guess I should have also had the history. I apologize.
Yes, I'm showing, I'll let pretrial go first.
You can go.
I'm showing 3 cycles out of North Carolina, a carrying concealed weapon conviction in 2018, and I'm guessing this is a failure to maintain vehicle in 2018 conviction as well. So just limited criminal history.
All right, Mr. Tavis.
Thank you, Judge. As I stated previously, my client has an apartment here. She is now a Georgia resident. I have no objection to a $1,500 bond. I would ask again, that my client be allowed to return. No contact is fine, but she'll need to return to the apartment. On top of that, I don't know if the court wants to entertain it at this point, but I don't think that there is probable cause in this warrant to even have bound the case over or accuse it. So I would ask the court to take that into consideration. It's clear from the warrant, Ms. Mills, the co-defendant or opposing party in this case, told police that she had thrown my client's possessions all over the apartment before she returned. Georgia has a defensive habitation, defensive property statute that gives you immunity from prosecution. That's 16.324, that says that you are allowed to use force or threats of force to stop someone from interfering with your property or trespassing on your property. And so I don't think that this case is going to be able to be prosecuted because there's an affirmative defense. Notwithstanding the self-defense claim here, my client was much more seriously injured. She had a laceration in her eye. I don't know if the state intends to inquire as to whether that's going to be an aggravated battery, but my understanding is she's receiving medication at the jail. She has an infection in her eye now. It was swollen shut. But in either case, we have at a minimum cross Fifth Amendment issues and potentially an affray, but we do believe we have affirmative defenses here because my client was not the aggressor. And in the warrant on its face, Ms. Mills admitted to police that she had started destroying my client's property before she even arrived home. So I would ask the court to take that into consideration.
Well, I believe the case has already been accused. Is that correct, ASG Allen? Yes. So
I
the
do
case is
see with
right.
this fast track accusation, they did get the number.
Mhm.
But I would ask the court to take that
So
consideration.
that part I really will not consider. I'll let that play
Sure.
out in the division court or where it goes next. So I won't entertain dismissing anything at this point. But I was trying to, let's see, 223 to see where mom is. If not, I'm going to just take what you all have stated to me in consideration about the lease being in Miss Stewart's name and that Miss Davis is Miss Stewart's daughter. Do I have that correct?
That is correct.
And if she doesn't sign on in about 2 seconds, I will proceed without her input, since it sounds like she was not a witness and she was not there.
She's not, she flew down at 2 o'clock in the morning when she heard this, and she's been to the apartment and seen the damage and said, I'm responsible for the damage as the leaseholder, so I don't want her to return. Other than, I said, well, usually they can return with the sheriff to obtain her property. But other than that, I told her I would make the court aware, since both parties are there, they're going to have a stay away. One party can be there, and it's my client's mother who's on the lease.
Okay. Okay. And I didn't call that second case. That's 23 CR 00436-2Y. Let me rule first on the, I'm sorry, on Mills is 23 CR 00436-7Y. Let me rule first on Miss Davis. On her case, I will grant the $1,500 signature bond. Pretrial, will you take it or no? Because, well, she's a Georgia resident now. I would like to do that through pretrial per judge.
Okay.
Pretrial?
Okay.
Okay. All right. $1,500 signature bond through pretrial. I'm going to order the 1-day anger awareness course through pretrial. I'm going to order a stay away from the property. Make sure I'm getting it right. No, wait. Miss Davis, the one that I'm on now is Davis. Davis is the one whose mom is on it, correct? So there's no stay away from Miss Davis, but no further contact with the co-defendant and victim, Alexis Mills, in her case. So for Davis, $1,500 signature bond through pretrial, 1 anger awareness course, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond, and then no further contact. And then on Miss Mills' case, I'm going to order the $1,500 signature bond. And I will do that signature bond through pretrial as well. I'm going
Is
to
that the one that
order,
live in North Carolina, Judge?
I thought both of them are here. They're from there. Isn't that not correct?
I mean, arguably, both of these young women are from North Carolina. Their criminal histories from North Carolina.
And one of them booking address says North Carolina. I'm not-
Maybe her license still does. I thought I understood they both were leasing technically or co-leasing or whatever this apartment in Georgia. Do we know,
Yes.
Mr. Tevis, how long have they both been here? I think I heard 7 months ago is what I wrote
7
down,
months.
that they moved here to Georgia. So technically, after the 6th month, if she's intending, she's a Georgia resident, maybe she hasn't changed her driver's license.
All right, what's your bond again? That's fine.
$1,500 signature bond through pretrial. I'm gonna order the
Okay.
one-day anger awareness course as well. And I'm going to order a stay away from the 2115 Piedmont Road, Optimus Loss for Ms. Mills. And no further contact with victim and co-defendant, Ms. Davis. And also no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. All right, anything else, counsel, that I need to take up with either case?
Nothing from further from defense.
I believe Ms. Mills needs a one-time law enforcement escort.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. All right. And
Thank
Ms.
you.
Mills will get that one-time law enforcement escort to get her personal belongings. Okay. Yeah.
And it's 2:30.
All right. That should conclude both those cases. You may want to maybe call the mother. She doesn't have to sign on unless she wants, or unless you can't catch her, maybe to let her know I've resolved the bond cases for both.
Very well. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. All right, deputies, who do we have next?
I was looking for Officer Norris on the jail iPhone. I want
Uh-huh.
to get him, but I don't see him up here. Okay. We'll go to add-on 1. Position 1 on the add-on calendar. Ms. Jones.
Ms. Bridgewater,
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
can you read that for me? I didn't
Sure, I will.
print out an add-on.
Okay. Position number 1 on the add-on calendar is, let me get to it. The defendant's name is Jal Jones, case number 23 CR 004372Y, charged with battery family violence.
All right. Pretrial,
Ninth arrest. Last arrest was 2018 probation. 2017 Henry 911 call, that was a conviction. 2014 to 16 probation violation. 2013 ag assault, criminal damage to property conviction. That's it.
all right. State,
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident between two sisters. The third-party witness in this case is actually their mom. Mrs. Jones, who's before you today, was at the residence at 3093 Eastbrook Terrace on the 4th of July. Police were called where they spoke with her sister, D-A-I-J-N-E, Diane maybe, Jones. She reported that the defendant, Mrs. Jones, was on the phone with her boyfriend, mom, and the victim heard a conversation that they described as getting weird. They interrupted the defendant to see what was going on, and this prompted the defendant to become angry, and there was a physical altercation after an initial verbal altercation. The victim in this case, Sister Diane Jones, reported that the defendant got up and came at her from across the room and assaulted her. She was observed to have scratches on her left arm and her left shoulder. She refused medical attention. She said that she actually wasn't sure at a certain point what had injured her, whether it was the hands of her sister or objects, but it seemed to have been a pretty intense altercation. Detective Muzan of APD stepped in and took over this investigation and did some interviews and reviewed body cams. She took a warrant out after reviewing the body cam and noting that statements from mom, who was on scene and was a witness, corroborated the statements of the sister about being attacked by Ms. Jones, who is the defendant in front of you today, and assaulted. So this is a battery, for scratches on the arm, specifically to Mrs. Diane Jones. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name. And I believe I saw some other information about criminal history, but it does look like this young woman has prior domestic violence. She has hindered 911 communication previously. And so I am not sure if we were able to get in touch with I know we left a message for the victim in this case. At this point, we'd just be asking for $1,500 surety bond, Your Honor. I'm going to review the criminal history again.
Okay. All right, PD Kim.
Yes, I actually see her mother, Adeje Bird, on the screen right now. So I was wondering if she wants to testify before I do, because she was actually a witness at that time.
Okay, is that Adeja Bird?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Bird,
Yes, ma'am.
would you like to address the court today? Can you hear me?
I can.
If you do, I'm gonna need you to turn on your camera.
Okay, sorry. I just feel like this was, I was.
Hold on. My question first is, would you like to address the court today? Yes or no?
Sure, yes.
Okay, raise your right hand for me so I can swear you in.
Oh, God, can you see it?
Yes. Do you affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. You can put your hand down. All right, and what would you like to tell me about this incident?
I just feel like this was an incident that it was just an argument that just went too far over silliness. I can say in the past year that Jalay is how you pronounce it, and Dejanay is how you pronounce it, have had no contact. There haven't been any threats, any violence, anything between the two in the last year.
Okay.
One question I have is Miss Bird okay for my client to return home, 3093 Eastburg? I believe Dejane does not reside there. Is that correct?
That is true. And Jalay has been living with me since April, so that's fine.
Okay. Nothing further from defense. I would like to defend Miss Jones. She is 32 years old and she's residing with her mom, who just said that she's fine for her to return home. Your Honor, she has been a single mom for the last 10 years, and she has 2 jobs. She cleans buildings during the weekends, and she works during the daytime, during the weekdays. She works at a debt collecting firm to make a living, and she's the one primarily taking care of her son and also taking care of her mother. She graduated from high school and she also went to beauty school, but she does not have a license for that part. She's been here in Georgia for the last 8 years, And I would like to request for signature on bond and also stay away from her own place where she resides with her mom. And no further contact is okay with her. Thank you.
And
Okay.
Your Honor, just briefly, I did review my notes on criminal history. The defendant, Janae, excuse me for mispronouncing names, is a convicted felon. She was convicted after a 2013 aggravated assault criminal damage to property in Henry County, was given first offender and then later had that revoked. She also has history out of Pennsylvania that includes an arrest for aggravated assault. And then this hindering 911 call, an arrest out of Springfield here in Georgia. I would note that, this is a sensitive situation because the two young women involved in this case are sisters, and we're not hearing from Dejanay, we're hearing from mom, who was a witness and whose statements at the time that this incident happened on July the 4th corroborated the victim in this case. So mom is saying she doesn't mind if the defendant, Janae, comes home, but we haven't heard from the victim, as mom is testifying to the court today, that this really wasn't a big deal. She wasn't, in fact, the victim of this incident. So we would just request that some bond conditions be included that include no violence and no drugs or alcohol, and perhaps an anger management course, the day course, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. And so this happened July the 4th. That's the offense date.
Yes, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor. It is my client who voluntarily turned herself in when she found out that there was a warrant out there. She's the one who came into the Fulton County Jail voluntarily. And Dejanay, her sister, does not reside at 3093 Eastbrook, Your Honor.
All right. And so let me make sure that I have this right state. So the victim in this case, they're sisters, but they don't both reside at that location.
Right.
That's correct. Okay.
That's the representation that the defense and the mother, who is a witness in this case, is making, Your Honor. We haven't heard from the victim.
Right. And what's the victim's first name?
Dejanay.
Okay. Similar to the mom's without the A?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. And I was a little confused, so make sure I was straight. So the victim is Dejanay and mom is A Dejanay? I'm not mispronouncing it. Say that again, Mom.
Dejanay.
Dejanay. Okay. Okay. All right. And I apologize if we are getting all of that incorrect, but making sure. All right.
The addresses for all three people involved are the same address as the incident location. I guess that's the piece I'm trying to point out. The person missing today is our victim who received a visible injury, who's also living with mom and sister. And what we're being told by mom is that since July the 4th, the victim has moved out. And so it's fine for this defendant to come home.
Is that correct, Ms. Bird?
Can I talk?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. They initially both moved out. Dejanay has been gone, I want to say since August. I'm not, don't hold me to that, please, but I believe like August, she moved out. Jalea actually left that day and did not return. And she just moved back in April so that she can help with her son. I've had her son, so she's moved back in so she can help with her son.
Your Honor, this happened on July 4, 2022.
Yes.
About a year ago, Your Honor.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. I don't think I paid
it was
attention. So
last
thank you.
year.
I do see that last year.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, PD Kim. So, at this point, I will certainly grant a signature bond. And that would be a $1,500 signature bond. I believe that I'm going to just grant that through the jail. but I will ask that Ms. Jones find a one-day anger awareness course to take. I'm going to also order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I'm assuming at this point, there's no need for an escort or anything of that nature. But I'm somewhat conflicted about no further contact and no further violent contact. Since it's been a while and it appears that maybe it has calmed down and all of that. What was the state's recommendation?
We would be all right with no further violent contact, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. And so no further violent contact with the victim. And I think that's all. Anything else, counsel, that I need to take up?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Bird, for getting on and giving us some clarity to the situation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Great.
thank you. You too.
Position, I believe, 8.
Okay.
Ms. Howard.
Your Honor, this is the one that I requested for breakout room for MH issue, Your Honor.
All right. Ms.
And that's
Champion,
my case.
and that I was going to say, for the state, do you want anybody else in with you, ASG Allen?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Ms. Champion? All right, we're back on the record.
What's the bond?
Yes. All right, this is again Christopher Howard. Case number 23 CR 004366H. And you can hear me, courtroom 2, is that correct?
Yes, we can, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Howard, the ruling in this case will be a $5,000 surety bond, and that breakdown will be $2,000 on the stalking, $1,500 on the simple assault, and $1,500 on the obstruction. And with this $5,000 surety bond, Mr. Howard, I'm going to be very, very detailed and clear with you as to what my instructions will be. The first thing is that you will stay away from any location where the victim, Amber Philpott, is located. You will have no further contact with Miss Amber Philpott, and I mean absolutely no further contact. You are to stay at least 200 yards away from her and anyone in her family. You're to stay away from her job. You're to stay away from her relatives. You'd have no contact with her directly or indirectly, or with her family members, professional, personal, no emails, no, I was going to say pager, if you still have one, no writing, any messages. And when we say no contact, we mean no contact. Otherwise, you'll be right back here at the Fulton County Jail. I am very concerned about the facts of this case, and just hope that you follow the court's instructions and the conditions of your bond, or else it will be revoked. You are to have no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons or guns while you're on bond. And that's all I'm going to order at this time. But certainly I'm very, very serious about the stay away in any regard from this victim. All right. Okay. That will conclude this case.
Position 10, Ms. Moore.
All right, this is case number 23 CR 004368J. Katisha Moore, charged with 1 count of criminal trespass, pretrial.
Last arrest was June 21st for trespass. Got an open terrorist threats, trespass, disorderly conduct, obstruction. That's in Superior Court. 2022 trespass, possession of drug-related objects, obstruction, conviction. 2022 trespass, conviction. 2022 failure to appear. 2014 trespass, conviction, and a 2014 forgery, 4th degree conviction. That's it.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. You just heard the defendant's criminal history. It includes a lot of very similar situations. This case is 1 count of criminal trespass, and it is specifically for remaining on the property at 2462 MLK Junior Drive. That's in Southwest Atlanta. It's specifically a location called the Gordon Plaza. It's a little shopping complex. On the 11th of July, police were called when the security officer at the location, Mr. Benny Armbruster, had encountered Miss Moore and requested that she leave, and she wouldn't leave. So he called, Mr. Armbruster called police and asked for assistance. On scene, police engaged with Miss Moore, and she also refused to leave when they made that request. And so she was taken into custody by Officer Thompson with APD. I do not believe she's already been given a bond on this charge, Your Honor. The state has some concerns about maybe some services or wraparound support. And we would be asking for a $1,500 bond. We'd leave the rest to your discretion, but it does sound like, and it did sound like Mr. Howard said, there's an open case. So criminal trespass and terroristic threats from January of this year, and that's in Superior Court.
Okay. All right, PD Kim?
Yes, my client, Ms. Moore, is 35 years old. Right now, she's residentially challenged. So I actually asked our social worker to have a visit with her because she was interested in having some help. She does have issues with the drug substance abuse issues, and she also has a medical condition, seizures. So it will be the best for her if she gets a signature on bond and gets out, but still gets some help. Right now, at the jail, I don't think that she can get medicine for her medical condition right now. That's it, Your Honor. She has no place to go at this point. Thank you.
All right. Do we have, are you able to get social services there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we'll provide some of those services. I guess my only other concern is if I were to do a signature bond to make sure we have a way to keep up with her, know where she may be to get her back to court. She's got some history that does concern me, but you know, I'm also wanting to make sure, again, with all the Ayala factors, that she gets a fair bond as well.
She gave me her auntie's phone number, and also she can have a free mailing service at First Presbyterian Church at Peachtree Street. So I think that those two are the main ways for us to contact her.
Okay, so you've got those in place. All right. I'm going to order the $1,500 signature bond, and I'm going to order that signature bond through the jail. And obviously some services for her as well. And to stay away from the 2462 MLK, I believe is the address. That
Yes, Your Honor.
shopping plaza. I'm gonna say, I don't know, the no further contact with the security officer. I don't know if the state wants that or not.
I don't believe that's necessary. Just the general stay away from the Gordon Plaza there on MLK Junior Drive.
Okay, so to stay away from the Garden Plaza, Miss Moore, please don't go back there, else you'll be back here in the jail. So if you stay away from the plaza, that will be fine. And also, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I think that will do it. Anything else, counsel?
Nothing further from defense.
Okay. All right. That'll conclude this case, Ms. Moore.
Your Honor, can we go back to position 2? She really wants to speak on her bond.
Please. Please, Judge.
This is Ms. Andrews.
Yes, ma'am.
May I say, ma'am, I do work at General Dollar. I suppose.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You're represented by PD Wills. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would like to say, Ms. Andrews, anything you say can and will be used against you.
This is not about the case. I just want to know, I have a son out there. I go back to work tomorrow. I know you gave me a $3,000 bond. I cannot afford that right now. I don't have no family here. It's just me and my kid. I would truly, if there's money in your heart to lower it or to give me a signature bond, please. I'm not a violent person. I just want to get hold of my kid. I'm not a bad person. I'm not, ma'am. And it got nothing to do with the case. I'm not saying anything about the case.
Right, I do understand. I know that you had some extensive history,
It's
Ms.
my
Andrews, so I have to look at all factors.
It's my past, ma'am. I've had some things happen in my past and I'm not perfect and I understand that. And I know if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm just asking, in your heart, please lower my bail or give me a signature bond. I cannot afford that right now due to the fact that I have to leave my residence.
Right, pre-trial. And I may ask the state to tell me, what was the date of her last arrest or the previous one prior to this one? Anyone can tell me, the state or pre-trial. And I think he must not be here.
Give me 1 second, Your Honor, I'm looking at
Okay,
it.
I know you gotta go back to that case.
The last arrest that I am seeing. What's this? This is not it. Victoria.
The pretrial report lists January 6, 2023 out of Douglas.
January the 6th, 2023.
23. Mhm.
And what was that charge?
This was possession, purchase, or manufacture of marijuana, theft by receiving stolen property, 2 counts, 3 counts, 4 counts of theft by receiving stolen property, and possession and use of drug-related objects.
And then what was the one right before that?
It's a DUI from 2021 arrest.
Okay.
And our
How
our
old is-
system shows criminal history from Nevada, California, as well as Georgia with multiple convictions.
Right, I wrote down 29 total. What, as far as the incidents, 29 total encounters, of course, the convictions as well.
But Your Honor,
Um,
my client is 43 years old. She's
Mhm.
originally from California. She relocated to Georgia. And so I would like that to be taken in consideration. This most recent arrest is just an arrest. It's still an allegation at this point. She hasn't been found guilty. And her most, after that was 2021. So I would like the court to take those factors in consideration as well.
How old is her child?
He is 13 years old. And he does live here with her,
She
or
has,
he or she, I'm sorry, her child.
where is he now?
He's right now, he's basically across the street at the neighbor's house.
At your neighbor's house? I don't often do this, and I'm sure the state will object. I am going to turn that $3,000 surety bond to a signature bond, so that you can get out and get back to work and take care of your son. And so with that signature bond, I will do it through the jail, because I believe that you're going to come back to court and you're going to meet all your court dates, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I will be there early. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so again, the same conditions are that you should stay away from that 2320 Burdett Ridge. You'd have no further contact with Rodney Tate.
I need an escort, please.
Okay. I think I ordered that before, a one-time law enforcement escort to go back to the property to retrieve your items. And when you get out, you must coordinate that with law enforcement. Okay. And sometimes that can be difficult and it can take a minute So you may have to be without some things until you can arrange for them to meet you there. And make sure that happens, because if it doesn't, then
I
you will be
know.
violating your bond and you'll be right back here in
I
jail.
will not do that. I
So
cannot
be
let my
very
kids
careful.
I won't do
Very-
that.
Okay, be very careful. So good luck to you, and I'm change it to a $3,000 signature bond through the jail deputy.
Yes,
Thank you, Judge. And I
Your
just would like to state to Ms. Andrews, please
Yeah.
update your address. Once you have a new address, so you receive all court notices.
Okay.
yes, Your Honor, and I would like to put on record that the state objects, especially because there has not been an adequate cooling off period, that the defendant has spoken to the victim on the phone several times today, and they talk, and where the defendant talked about where she asked the victim, why did you tell them I hit you? So the state objects to the change in the bond.
All right, so noted for the record. Thank you, ASG Bickerstaff.
We can go to position 1, Mr. Anderson.
All right. This is 23 CR 004359C, Harvey Anderson, charged with 1 count of battery, pretrial.
19 total. His last violent arrest was over 20 years ago. That's it.
Okay. All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred on 8/14/2022 at 4375 Cascade Road. And this is where Miss Sybil Shepherd told officers that she was walking from her car to her apartment with her friend, Mr. James Smith, when suddenly she felt a strong push from behind. And it was the defendant, her ex-boyfriend, who pushed her to the ground. And then he started cursing at her and asking her why was she bringing another man to her apartment. Miss Sybil Shepherd sustained cuts on her elbow, her wrist, and her knee, and her wrist was swollen and bruised from being pushed to the ground by the defendant. Smith, her friend, who she was with that night, told officers that he witnessed the defendant push Miss Sybil, and he witnessed the defendant become irate and aggressive. So he had to point his gun at the defendant in defense of himself and Miss Shepherd that night. And then the defendant left the scene. Our office was able to speak to Miss Shepherd, and she let us know that they're not in a relationship, that her and the defendant are not in a relationship. However, they do have 2 children together. Miss Shepherd confirmed the events in the warrant, and she let us know that the incident happened at her daughter's residence. And she said that a few months after the incident, she had to call the police on the defendant again for showing up to her residence and banging on her door. She let us know that she's not in fear of the defendant. And she did say that she was okay with having contact with him. However, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond. We're asking for a 1-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Miss Shepherd, and to stay away from the incident location, 4375 Cascade Road, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. And if Miss Shepherd is on Zoom, I'd like to sound for her.
All right, Miss Sybil Shepherd. Sybil Shepherd. Don't think she's on. PD Wills.
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 46 years old. As was stated by pretrial, he does not have a violent history. And his last violent crime was over 20 years ago. He is a Georgia native. He works for CJ Logistics as a forklift operator. He's worked there for the past 7 years. He will not qualify to receive representation by the Public Defender's Office. He does have a high school diploma. He shares 2 children with Miss Shepherd. He states that at the time of this incident, they had recently broken up, and that he does dispute the facts as alleged in the warrant. He states that he did come upon Miss Shepherd with her new paramour. There was a verbal altercation, but nothing physical. He states that her paramour did point his weapon at him, and he retreated. Again, they have 2 children in common. I would like it noted that this incident happened August 14th, 2022. My client and Ms. Shepherd have had contact and communication since then. They've continued to co-parent. They do not live together. He does not have any belongings at her home. For all of those reasons, I would ask for a signature on bond. And if your honor is not so inclined, I would ask that his bond not be greater than $1,000. I would also ask for no further violent contact, as he has not been arrested, and his last arrest was 2020 for a driving offense.
All right. And the victim has stated, I believe to the state, that she had to call again. Do we know when that was? Was that in 2022, 2023? Do we have any idea?
I am not sure. And she just let our victim advocate know that it was a few months after this incident occurred that she had to call the police because he was coming to her house and banging on her door.
So that would have still been in 2022.
22, yes. But she did let us know that since that incident, there hasn't been any violence between them and they've been on good terms, but the state's position is still no further contact, as well as the $3,000 surety bond.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to grant a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial per judge. And with that $4,000 signature bond, I'm going to order a one-day anger awareness course through pretrial. I'm going to order a stay away from that incident location. It's at 4375 Cascade Road. And I'm going to order no further violent contact with the victim. And of course, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that's all I'll order at this time.
Thank you, Judge.
Uh-huh.
Position 3, Mr. Constable.
Okay. This is 23 CR 004360C. Is that Rashane Constable? One charge of 1 count of battery, pre-trial.
2018 battery DV, disorderly conduct, and a regular battery dismissed. That's it.
Okay. State.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident happened July 29th of 2022. And it happened at 999 Peachtree Street. And this is where the defendant struck Mr. Demario Holland in the jaw during an altercation. Mr. Holland told officers that he had a sprained shoulder from the altercation. And Mr. Holland told officers that he's known the defendant for about 5 or 6 months. So our office was able to speak to Mr. Holland, and he let us know that he was a security guard at that location. And he let us know that the defendant had some encounter in the past about where he was leaving his packages. And so on this incident, the defendant refused to leave his packages where he had been told to leave them. And the defendant shoved Mr. Holland first. And then Mr. Holland let us know that his shoulder was bruised because of that. He let us know that he still works for that security company, but he no longer works at that location. He also let us know that he's okay with not having any contact with the defendant. So for all of these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond. We're asking for a one-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Mr. Demario Holland, and to stay away from 999 Peachtree Street, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. And if Mr. Holland is on Zoom, I would like to sound for him.
All right, Mr. Holland. Mr. Holland. Nope, don't think he's here. All right, go ahead, PD Wills.
Thank you, Judge. My client is 29 years old. He's resided in the state of Georgia for the past 6 years. My client works for Amazon in their logistics department as a helper and driver. That is how he encountered Mr. Holland. They have no personal relationship whatsoever. He denies the fact that they had known each other for 5 or 6 months. Mr. Holland is he's just a security guard at a building where my client delivers packages. It literally would make no sense for him to engage in or start a physical altercation over the location of where he's leaving boxes as part of his job. My client states that Mr. Holland approached him. He was very aggressive. He pushed my client, and my client hit him in self-defense. My client has not seen Mr. Holland since. I would object to a stay away, as my client, in the course of his employment, still goes to that building to deliver packages, and it was stated by the state that Mr. Holland no longer works security at that building. And again, my client has not seen him since this incident occurred. My client actually states he was injured as a result of what Mr. Holland did to him. However, he kept working and tried to move on with his day and did not believe that there was anything more to it. This is another incident where or case where the incident happened last year. This happened July 12th. No, I'm sorry. That's today's date. Yes, it happened July of last year. I would ask for a signature on bond for all of those reasons. My client needs to get back to work. He's enthusiastic about getting back to work. And if your honor is not so inclined, my client currently has a $2,500 bond. I would ask that that bond be reduced.
Okay. All right, I'm going to order a $3,000 signature bond through the jail. With that signature bond through the jail, I am going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. I'm going to order stay away from 99. Well, I don't know. Hold on. Stay away. 999 Peachtree Street if he still has to deliver packages there, correct? So
Correct.
I
And Mr.
won't-
Holland does not work there anymore.
So you don't work there. So since you don't work there, I'm assuming, Mr. Holland, and you can just shake your head, you will have no reason
No,
to
I'm
go
sorry.
back to
My
999
client
Peachtree.
is Mr. Constable. Mr. Holland is the alleged victim.
Oh, Mr. Holland is a security guard. I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Constable.
And he no longer works security at that building.
Okay, so Mr. Constable will not need to go back to that building. Is that correct?
Mr. Constable still delivers packages at that building. Mr. Holland no longer secures that building. So that's why they have had no other interaction.
Gotcha. Because Mr. Constable works for Amazon, and so he's delivering. Okay. I'm clear now. He's shaking his head. I got it. Sorry about that. I'm going to grant the signature bond through the jail and just say that there should be no further contact with Mr. Constable and the victim, Mr. Holland. And obviously, if he's got deliveries, he can do that. But if you happen to see him, make sure you go the other way because you're supposed to stay away from him. No drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that's all I'll order at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position 2 on the add-on, Mr. Netsby.
All right.
All right. I'm on, yeah.
This is case number 23 CR 004369G, Austin Nesbitt. Charged with 1 count of criminal trespass and damage to property. 2nd count of driving or fleeing, attempting to elude police. 3rd count of reckless driving. 4th count, simple battery, and 5th count of driving while license suspended or revoked. Pre-trial.
37 total. He got a lot of probation violations. 2019 suspended license conviction. 2016 failure to appear, 2014 suspended license conviction. That's it.
All right, state.
Your Honor, Mr. Nesbitt's a convicted felon with criminal history out of Georgia and Ohio, including multiple firearms cases, multiple possession with intent cases, many cases actually out of Fulton County. This case is an incident that happened in December of 2022, so warrants were issued following incident. The victim in this case is Logan Symbalee, Symbalee. Police were called to 1111 Oakley Industrial Boulevard. That is the Solstice Apartments, number 6412. On the scene, Fairburn police were approached by a woman, this victim, who they observed running behind a large vehicle, an SUV that the defendant was driving, saying, "Stop the vehicle, stop the vehicle." Officers from Fairburn observed this defendant crash through the gate to the apartment complex. Police had their lights on and activated and were directing the defendant to stop. He crashed through the gate, went out into traffic. It was about 8:45 in the morning. He almost struck a police officer's car and then entered the roadway at a high rate of speed. Then was seen running a red light and then entering onto 85 North. That's when the Fairburn police stopped giving chase and they went and interviewed the victim. She reported that the defendant had come to the location and assaulted her. She had a friend staying with her around Christmas, and while the victim was asleep in the house, the friend let this defendant inside. So the defendant came into the victim's bedroom and woke her up. He reported that he was angry. She had not returned his calls for the previous day, and he backhanded her while in the bedroom. She tried to flee, eventually returning to her bedroom. He was following her around the house. She closed and locked her bedroom door. And at that point, he busted through the door of the bedroom and was able to reach through the door and grab her by her shirt. So the interior door for her bedroom was damaged. And that's where the criminal trespass damage comes from. The victim reported that she had called the police previously. There'd been prior violence and that the defendant always flees before police arrive. So when she was able to flee after this incident, she went outside to try to see if she could maybe make it so he couldn't leave this time, but she encountered police. And so the defendant ultimately was on the run and was not picked up until recently. That's why the arrest warrants were issued within the last year. So the charges in this case are criminal trespass for damaging the interior door, eluding police for while sirens and lights were on, refusing to follow directives to stop, reckless driving for almost hitting a police patrol car, driving without a license. You just heard from pretrial that the defendant had just recently been convicted of that same kind of crime. And then we added a simple battery for the slapping of this victim during this altercation, Your Honor. We have tried to reach out and get in touch with the victim in this case. When I last spoke to people in our office in the victim advocate group, I don't believe we were successful in making contact. There is a probation violation warrant, as pretrial said, for this defendant out of Henry County from 2023. And he is a convicted felon. So we would ask for, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 charges. We'd ask for $1,500 each on that. So that's $5,000 total. No contact with the victim, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And I believe that's it, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Nesbitt, well, he is proud father of 5 minor children, Your Honor, and he is currently married to another person, Miss Monica. They relationship with Logan Symbalee completely ended. This happened more than yeah, almost like 8 months ago. There has been no contact, no, I mean, he's been totally fine with the staying away from that location. There has been no contact whatsoever. My client denies the allegation. He's working as a security guard at a rape club. He's been doing that ever since 2021. He graduated from high school. He also completed audiovisual engineering at Art Institute. So he's not going to be qualified for public defender's services. And yet we would like to request for a signature on bond. Those are mostly driving violences. So I don't think a coupon is necessary for driving violence. And we do understand that simple battery just got added. We didn't know, it was not added when I was interviewing my client. So that's kind of surprising, but we still would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond for that simple battery. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to order the $5,000 surety bond, and that's $1,500 on each charge. I'm going to order stay away from 1111 Oakley Industrial Boulevard, number 6412. I'm going to order no further contact with the victim, Logan Simbali. No drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I believe that is it.
And that would be, I apologize, it'd be $1,000 on each charge, Your Honor, since we have 5.
Oh, 1, 2, 3,
I
4, 5.
misspoke.
Yes. And I agreed with you in my terrible math as well. So that'll be 1,000 on each. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Judge.
You were gonna correct my math.
I was going to correct you. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Okay. All right, so that will conclude this case. If there's nothing else, I was looking at whether, let me add to that, no driving unless he has a valid driver's license. I'm not for sure if he does, because I think one of the charges is driving while license suspended or revoked. So he should not be driving unless he has a valid license from DDS, and looks like he does not. All right, if there's nothing else, that'll conclude this case.
Position 6, Mr. Harris.
All right.
One more.
This is case number 23 CR 004365F. That Jonathan Harris charged at 1 count of simple assault, 2nd count of reckless driving, 3rd and just the 2 counts. I'm sorry. Pretrial.
Third arrest, 2020 ag assault dismissed out of Tennessee. 2016 false reporting conviction. That's it.
All right. State.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, so this incident occurred yesterday at 1055 Holcomb Bridge Road. And so officers arrived and they spoke with Mrs. Nagar and Neelan. I'm just going to say Y for their last name. I don't want to butcher it so bad, but Miss Y, they were involved in a car accident with Miss Carrie Kelly, who backed her car into the lady's car. And so when the Ys got out of their car to confront Miss Kelly about it, Miss Kelly became irate and she started saying racial slurs at them. And then Miss Kelly parked into a Crystal's parking lot. And she went inside the Crystals, and then she came out and she told the 2 ladies that she had called the police and that she felt threatened by them. And so then Miss Kelly then attempted to leave the Crystals. And so the Ys tried to block her in so that she couldn't leave. And so as she was attempting to leave, that's when the defendant, who knows the 2 ladies, the 2 Ys, he came in his GMC truck and he also attempted to block Miss Kelly in. And so the defendant chased Miss Kelly out of the parking lot in his car, and they both end up stopping at Holcomb Bridge Road. And that's when where the defendant got out of his car and he grabbed an object off the ground. I believe it was a rock, and he striked Miss Kelly's car several times. The defendant told officers that he knew the ladies and he was just trying to help them. But for all of these reasons, the state's recommendation is to keep the bond that's already been set for the defendant, which is a $3,500 surety bond, $2,000 for the simple assault, and then $1,500 for the reckless driving. We're asking for a one-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Miss Carrie Kelly, as well as no driving without a valid license, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. And I don't believe Miss Kelly is on Zoom, but if she is, I would like to sound for her.
All right, Carrie Kelly. Carrie Kelly. I think it's just us left at this point. All right. Go ahead, PD Wills.
Thank you, Judge. I agree with some of the facts that Ms. Bickerstaff stated. My client is acquaintanced with the two women whose vehicle was struck by Miss Kelly. My client did try to assist his friends in preventing Miss Kelly from leaving the location because she was trying to leave. Thus, she was attempting to commit a hit and run. So my client was trying to assist his friends. He would have handled the situation differently if he could do it over again. But he did. His main goal was just trying to help his friends and prevent Miss Kelly from escaping as she had caused damage to his friend's vehicle. This is charged as a simple assault. It could easily be charged as a criminal trespass. My client has very limited history. The charge that from 2020 has been dismissed, and he doesn't have any other major convictions. For all of those reasons, I would request a signature on bond. My client is currently helping his aunt who is ill. He also is employed at Valet Trash. He has a high school diploma as well as an associate's degree, and he will qualify to be represented by the public defender's office. So again, I would ask for a signature bond, and if your honor is not so inclined, I would ask that his bond be reduced as he does have limited income.
All right, I'm going to order that the bond stay the same at the $3,500 surety bond, $2,000 on the simple assault, $1,500 on the reckless driving. There will be no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. No further contact with the victim, Carrie Kelly. And I think that's it. Anything else, counsel?
No, your honor.
Nothing from the state.
Thank you.
Position 3 on the add-on calendar.
Okay, position 3 is 23 CR 00437 Musafar Rizwan. Charge of 1 count of battery, family violence, 2nd count of obstructing or hindering a person making an emergency telephone call, pretrial.
11 adult arrests. 2016, he was arrested twice for simple battery. One was no low, one was a conviction. That's it.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that happened in June of this year. June the 8th of 2023, police were called to 601 Jasmine Parkway. That is a residence in Roswell. Officer Pearson Singleton responded. He met with the victim in this case, Mrs. Baksh, B-A-K-H-S-H. She reported that her husband and she argued, and at about 2 p.m. they were arguing because she wanted to leave the location to run an errand, or I believe in the car. He prevented her physically from leaving the home and took her phone from her. When she tried to call 911 from the watch on her wrist, he grabbed her wrist, causing a red mark on her wrist and hindering her 911 call. Those are the two charges in this case, grabbing her arm and causing a visible injury and preventing her from calling 911. Police then actually called the defendant while they were on scene, and he reported that they had argued, but had left to cool off and denied that there was a physical altercation. Warrants were taken out. The victim in this case has since left the marital home. She's requesting a one-time escort to go back and obtain her things. They share no children, but she did want to report that there had been violence in the past. She had just not previously called the police. She would like no contact with the defendant. The specific information about the criminal history, Your Honor, is that this defendant has multiple convictions for DUI, as well as 2 different convictions for batteries in 2016, like pretrial said, both out of Gwinnett County. The initial one in 2016, he was originally arrested for battery, family violence, and it was reduced to simple battery. And he was told to stay away from a victim, last name Momin in that case. Again, the same year, he pled nolo to a simple battery, again out of Gwinnett, with a different victim. And so the state's concerned that coercive control or domestic violence is a continuing issue. We'd also noticed that as part of conditions for his multiple DUI convictions, he's been ordered to undergo assessments and evaluations for substance abuse. So we would be asking for a $3,000 surety bond. That's $1,500 on each of the charges. No drugs or alcohol, no further contact with the victim, that she be allowed to come to the residence with a police escort to get her things, and a 1-day anger awareness. Thank you.
Your Honor, actually, his wife is on the Zoom right now, and I would like to ask her to speak for Mr. Rizwan, because when I was chatting with Ms. Rizwan's wife, she wanted to have a no for the violent contact. So may we please have her to testify first?
Yes. And tell me your name again.
My name is Maimuna.
I'm sorry.
My name is Maimuna.
All right, I can't speak with you unless I can see your face.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you turn on your camera for me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I have a problem. I cannot turn it on. I'm trying to.
When you signed on, I don't know if you signed on to make sure that the video and audio would both work when you signed on. Sometimes you have to go back out and come back in. Are you familiar with Zoom?
Your Honor, while she's working on the video, I'll be happy to argue for my client, Mr. Rizwan, who wants to work on this marriage. That is number one priority for him. He really wants to work it out, and he's willing to do counseling or therapies, whatever is necessary, Your Honor. My client they have been married for the last 3 years, Your Honor. And right now, wife currently resides in New Jersey at her family with her brother. And my client is residing at that incident location, 601 Jasmine Parkway, with his mother. Your Honor, they want to have a no for the violent contact. My client has a family business that his parents started, a rock business. It's a warehouse. They have a 5,000 square feet huge building to sell the rock, and he also sells car, and he will not be qualified for public defender's services. He also went to some medical school in another country from 2009 to 2011. He has high school graduation and some colleges here in the US as well. We would like to request for a signature on bond. And yet, if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, we would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond for each charge, so total $2,000. And my client really wants to have a no for the violent contact. Thank you.
All right. Hmm,
I have just a clarification to make, Your Honor, when you have a moment.
okay, go ahead.
So this incident happened in June at the marital home, and the victim in this case, who's now here on the Zoom, left that residence and went home to her family in New Jersey. The defendant has called the victim since his arrest. And as an example of the coercive situation and domestic violence, she spoke to our office no less than 3 times today. And since attending court and being on the Zoom and speaking with defense counsel, her position to have no contact changed to no further contact. And defense counsel just spoke about how the defendant would very much like to go to counseling and work on his marriage. He was screaming at her and yelling at her from the jail today. So the state would argue that although what Your Honor is hearing is that the victim in this case would like contact, what the state has presented is a violent criminal history that includes batteries as well as substance abuse, a victim who fled the location after this incident, told police and told our office that there were multiple violent incidences in the past. And that she wanted no contact whatsoever. So we would ask that for the safety of the victim and the community in general, no further violent contact be not considered here. This victim isn't even in Georgia at this point. She's in New Jersey. And we can certainly have our victim advocate, who is also on the Zoom, let the court know about the multiple conversations we've had with her this morning. And you can ask the victim about calls from the jail as well. But this is quite frankly a very direct example of a coercive control situation and domestic violence. You can't expect this young woman to get on the Zoom right now and go against what her husband and the defense attorney is now saying after talking to her while waiting. We added the hindering 911 call. Frankly, there could have been more charges added based on what was captured in the police report. And this is a serious case and obviously a situation that will continue if someone else doesn't step in, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Didi Kim?
Nothing further, Your Honor. I would like to see if his wife wants to talk.
Well, if she can get her camera working, she can talk. If not, I won't hear from her unless I can see her on camera.
Can I log in back?
Can you do what now?
Can I please log in back?
If it's gonna be 2 seconds,
Yes, ma'am.
I
That would be
kind of
possible.
belabored that. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
This is our last case? Or no, we have a couple of others while we're waiting.
Unfortunately, we do.
A comment from pretrial. All right, there you go. All right, would you like to address the court? Yes, I'm going to swear you in first. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury? Okay, you can unmute yourself and turn off the little red. There you go. All right, what would you like to tell the court today?
So I don't mind to contact with him if the case is like he really wants to work on this marriage. Otherwise, I don't want him to like get abusive to me anymore.
Okay, so are you wanting contact with him now? If he were to get out of jail?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you in fear of him?
Physically, yes, but we can contact on the phone.
Okay. Any cross-examination by the state?
Your Honor, just briefly, ma'am, thank you for being here. Is it true that you've had multiple conversations with people about this case today?
I'm sorry, I don't get it.
How many people have you spoken to about this case today?
No one.
Before court, did you speak to anybody on the phone from the solicitor's office?
Yeah, I talked to the lawyer
How many times?
2 times.
Okay, that was an advocate. Did you explain that you wanted no contact?
I did, yes.
And what happened between then and now that changed your mind?
Because he just say, I really want to work on this marriage.
Did he call you from the jail?
He called me, yes.
What did he tell you?
He was so mad and upset and he was cursing at me.
But because he says he wants to work on the marriage, you'll now allow contact, even though you just told the court that you were physically afraid of him?
Yes.
Okay, so Your Honor, we would object, and that's a perfect example of how, you know, these situations are terribly difficult, but this young woman cannot even choose her own safety right now because this man called her from the jail, yelled at her, and is now promising to work on their relationship. And she just told you she was physically afraid. So if we cannot keep her safe and our community safe, what are we doing?
All right, and what was the state recommendation again?
We would ask for $1,500 on each of the charges. So a $3,000 surety bond, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, no contact whatsoever.
All right.
And she needs to be able to come back to the location when she comes back to Georgia to get her things.
All right. PD Kim, anything
Yes.
else?
They are married, and husband is willing to work on it. I mean, they're physically apart from Georgia to New Jersey, Your Honor. Only thing that he can do is call wife, and they can have a Zoom counseling together. It doesn't have to be in person, Your Honor. However, I think it is very important for a married couple to work on their marriage.
This is a court of law. This is not family court. And this young woman just testified that she is physically afraid of this man. I think that this is inappropriate.
All right. I'm going to order the $3,000 surety bond, $1,500 on each of the charges. I'm going to order a stay away from the victim, and I am not going to mispronounce your name, so I will. You want to pronounce it for us again?
Maymuna?
Yes. And what's the last name?
Bakhsh. Bakhsh.
Bosch. All right, no further contact with the victim. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons or guns while on bond. And I'm going to order him to find a one-day anger awareness course.
Judge, are you gonna allow her a one-time escort to come and retrieve her items?
I will. Yes, and a one-time escort to go to that property location to retrieve your items if you need to. All right, I think that will be it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
That's it in courtroom 2. We do have position 5 and 7, they both waive their appearance.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you all have a good day.
You too, thank you. All right, let's do position 5. And then we'll do 7. This is 23 CR 004363A. That's Ms. Hairston or Mr. Hairston. Charge of 1 count of battery, a 2nd count of rioting. Pretrial.
13. She been in jail since January.
Is it a she or a he?
Oh,
Hairston. I have it as a male.
that's okay. That's fine. My bad.
Okay.
It's a
And
he.
been in jail since when? Say that again, pretrial.
January.
Okay.
You got 2 open CP cases, one for possession of a firearm by convicted felon, one for felony theft by taking. 2019 theft by receiving, obstruction, 3 counts. 2019 criminal damage to property, first offender. That's it.
All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor, and just briefly, the last 2 positions on the calendar, they are co-defendants, so the facts are the same. But for this particular defendant, this incident occurred July 2nd of this year at the jail at 901 Rice Street. And this is where Officer Pritchard was conducting a security round check in zone 400 and noticed Mr. Armand Stevens bleeding from multiple parts of his body. And then after reviewing surveillance camera, the officer observed Mr. Stevens walking down the stairs, and the defendant Henson and a third inmate attacked Mr. Stevens. The video showed the men kicking and pushing Mr. Stevens, and then the third inmate pulled out handmade shanks and began to stab Mr. Stevens. And then after the attack, all 3 men went their separate ways. And so for these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $6,000 surety bond, $5,000 for the battery, and $1,000 for the riot, a 1-day anger awareness course, and no further contact with Mr. Armand Stevens, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client, and I'm assuming it is Mr. Harrison
Yes.
or Mr.
Mhm.
Hanson.
Yeah.
Yes. Your Honor, my client is 23 years old. He tells me that he has been locked up since January. He is the father of a 3-year-old child. He absolutely denies that he was involved in any of this activity, Your Honor, and he says that there are cameras that he believes will ultimately show that he did not do anything at all, that he was not involved in attacking anyone. He adamantly denies it, Your Honor. He also tells me that even though he is awaiting charges, that he does have a bond on those charges, which he anticipates he will be able to post soon so he can get out of jail. I would ask the court to consider giving my client a signature bond because he has a significant bond on his other charges, Your Honor, and he has been in jail now for almost 7 months. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. And did you tell me that he has no bond on his other charges?
He does, but he told me it was a significant bond. I believe it was over 100,000, he told me.
Oh, is that what the state has or no? Or
Yes,
pretrial?
for one of the bonds, the aggravated assault, and it's like 2 counts of assault off shotgun. That one's a $50,000 split bond. And then for another one, he does not have a bond for. Let me just double check that. I think it's the theft by taking. He doesn't have a bond, but let me just make sure. That one, I'm seeing, it's $130,000 good
That
bond.
is correct. That's what he told me that. It's a pretty significant bond.
I would like to say he's not going anywhere.
That is what I would think, Your Honor.
But you never know. Sometimes.
Your Honor, my client seems confident that the cameras in the jail will vindicate him. He said he did not participate in the activity at all. He did not attack anyone. And I believe the allegation is that the other inmate, the victim, was stabbed.
Right.
Yes, Your Honor, and in the warrant, it does clearly state and identify each of the three co-defendants and what they were wearing, and it was stated in the warrant that each of the defendants participated in the attack against the victim in this case.
Your Honor, that was not my reading of the warrant. They said they saw some people walking away from the general area. They did not say that they saw my client stab anyone or attack anyone. It did not say that in the warrant. And he denies that he did that.
Right. I'm going to just order the $6,000 surety bond, which is $5,000 on the battery, $1,000 on the riot. And with that $6,000 surety bond, I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that's all I ordered at this time. I don't know if the state is requesting a stay away or anything.
We're just
Obviously not
no
stay
further.
away from the Fulton County Jail.
Well, not that, but just a no further contact with Mr. Stevens.
Okay.
And the co-defendant, Mr. Henson, and the other co-defendant, Mr. Newton.
All right. So no further contact with Mr. Stevens, Mr. Newton, and Mr. Henderson.
Your Honor,
Henson.
given that they're all incarcerated in Fulton County Jail and my clients don't get to decide where they stay or who they have contact with, I think that provision in the bond is unreasonable.
Yeah, probably no further violent contact. I'll change it to no further violent. Like I say, I don't know that they would have a choice, but certainly no further violence. I think we'll do it. All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
That'll conclude that case. And then position 7, which is 23 CR 004364A, Emmanuel Henson. Same thing, 1 count of battery, 2nd count of riot. Same case. What's his history pre-trial?
I think he's been in since June, but he got 8 total. He been in there since June for armed robbery, aggravated assault, obstruction. 23 CP 219483. 2022 disorderly conduct, obstruction, conviction. 2022 3 counts of obstruction, conviction. That's it.
Let's see, state, you see the bonds there at all?
Yes, so no bond was given in this defendant's case.
Okay.
The facts are the same and the bond recommendation is the same, a $6,000 surety bond, $5,000 for the battery and $1,000 for the riot. And it would be no further violent contact with the other co-defendants. So Harrison, Newton, and the victim in this case, Stevens, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. And who's representing Henson?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. McLeod.
My client is 22 years old, Your Honor. As this pretrial has said, he has been in jail pending some felony charges. He also denies that he attacked anyone, Your Honor. He is in no position, of course, to post bond because he's sitting in jail on other charges for which he cannot post bond. So any bond that he receives here, short of a signature bond, is tantamount to no bond. So I would ask the court to take that into consideration in setting a bond for him.
Okay.
He's 22 years old, Your Honor.
I will, for this case, I will order the $6,000 surety bond, 5,000 on the battery, 1,000 on the riot. With that $6,000 surety bond, I'll order no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. And no further violent contact with the other co-defendants and then the victim in this case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that'll
So
be it.
Judge, for this one here, it's not gonna be no further violent like with the other one?
I thought that's what I said, but if I didn't, right, no further violent like the other one.
Okay, all right,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
And that's it.
Okay, if that's it, will you all be ready to go with the calendar?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, once again, the reset date, which by the way happens to be my birthday, July
Oh.
25th.
So I know you won't be here, but okay.
No. Okay, position number one is going to be reset further notice with a $4,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position two, SAP calendar with a $3,000 SOB through the jail. Position three, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through the jail. Position four, reset further notice with a $1,500 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position five is going to the SAP calendar with a total $6,000 good bond. Position six, SAP calendar with a total $3,500 good bond. Position seven, SAP calendar with a total $6,000 good bond. Position eight, SAP calendar with a total $5,000 good bond. Position nine is reset further notice with a $1,500 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position 10, reset further notice with a $1,500 SOB through the jail. Add-on number one is reset further notice with a $1,500 SOB through the jail. Position two is reset to the SAP calendar with a total $5,000 good bond. And position number three is going to the SAP calendar with a total $3,000 good bond. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Nope, I think that'll do it.
Okay.
All right, everybody, have a good afternoon. Thank you, dear.
Bye.
All right, see